I want to welcome to the show Bailey T. Hurley. Bailey, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
I am so excited. You have a fun new book out. Together is a Beautiful Place, and it is a beautiful cover. It's so cute. I love the little birds and the cheery color. Talk
Mm,
to us about your passion for friendship and where that passion started.
Yes, I think our greatest form of influence are our relationships. And for me, friendship has been a major thread in my life, even from an early age. But if I come around to some pivotal moments, it was a friend who helped me know Christ, and it was friends who helped develop my faith, and it was friends who have become my family. And so for me, I'm like, friendship is everything. And I do believe that though we have some really important relationships with our parents and family members or our spouses, our children, that there is still something so valuable about having peer to peer relationships. And sometimes those are relationships that have lasted even longer than a marriage or will take you past the moments when your friends leave or your children have left your house. And so I just think that a lot of women, when different relationships come into their lives, they maybe put friendships to the side when really friendships are the ones that carry you through some of the most difficult and the best moments of your life in your entire life.
Yeah, there's definitely highs and lows in our friendship. And you're very
Mhm.
open in your book about your journey with friends.
Mhm.
And even though friends are super important to you, it hasn't always been a smooth ride.
Mhm. Yeah, there's definitely been bumps along the way, and the book kind of starts in a place where there was definitely a deficit in loneliness of friendship. And interestingly enough, it was less about the people and more about myself and my
Mhm.
expectations for friendship. They were just really displaced and unrealistic. And so those things were becoming barriers to actually appreciating the people that God had placed in my life to befriend. And so for me, the book kind of then takes that journey of then what does it look like to really dig in with where you are, the people you've already been placed in community with, and instead of being disappointed because they didn't match some version of what you thought friendship would look like, instead it's about creating then the version you really have been looking for. And so that's for me when I left my kind of like lonely college days and started young adulthood in a new city, I felt like I could put into practice some more realistic expectations I had for a friendship and maybe some expectations that were like above and beyond what I really wanted. And instead of just being, I don't know, discouraged or waiting for it to happen, I thought I gotta go make this happen. And so I take some of those applications and research and apply it to creating really sustainable and manageable friendships.
I love that so much. I'm curious, what were some of the expectations that you had to let go of? And then what are some expectations that you commonly see with other women?
Yes, I think I felt like it would just be the same as it was in high school.
Yeah.
And there was just more freedom, maybe just
Mhm.
more like maybe a relaxed state is what I would say. You just didn't have any other responsibilities. And when you get to college, you
Yeah.
might have the responsibility of having a job or having to do your homework or having to, I don't know, just different things you're involved in. And so now all of a sudden you're competing with some semi adult responsibilities with yourself and with your friends' responsibilities. And then when you move into adulthood, it becomes, some completely different set of responsibilities that are now vying for your time that was once placed in friendship. So I think I just assumed it would be really simple and easy and it wouldn't be something I had to work so hard for. And then you realize, oh no, I have to work really hard to be someone's friend. And so I think that was an expectation that was really just hard for me to move past.
Mm.
For me, the expectations really, when I said they were roadblocks, like truly I just felt like, man, these people just don't know how to do friendship or, why am I so bad at making friends? I thought I was good at it, but maybe I'm actually really terrible. There's just different, I think, doubts that seeped in when truly I could have just stepped out and said, oh, maybe then I need to pursue these people more. Maybe I need to ask better questions. Maybe I need to be the one that says yes more when I'm invited to things instead of always maybe choosing my homework over, people. I'm a very task oriented person. So for me, I was like, I have a assignment due in 7 days, so I need to do it today. I can't hang out. So yeah, those were some of the expectations I really wrestled with.
Do you feel it's common for other women as well? Or do you feel like those are kind of unique to you, just like with your own personality and maybe what you value and prioritize?
Sure. I think for women, a common thread, if we look at like the foundation, it could be on the surface, a lot of different things. But I think underneath, it definitely comes down to having to work at friendship. I think in general, our society doesn't like to do hard things. And so we so quickly just say, like, I'm just going to drop that friend now, or our schedules just keep misaligning. It's too tough. Like, I'm not going to reach out again. And so I think it really comes, back down to like, wait, I have to do something about this. One of the things when I'm coaching women on friendship is talking about friendship habits. Like, what are you doing regularly that's really stewarding your relationships? And interestingly enough, I think when we find one way to do something, so if you think back to high school, the way you did friendship in high school, if you try to do that and again in college, like it's just not going to work. Things are different, your environment's different, people are different. But once you finally figured it out in college, you can't take that and then place it on your next season of life. You have to kind of constantly be creative about how you're pursuing people. And I think when there is a disconnect is that if you've had the expectation of, well, I did it this way, so it should always be done this way. And if it doesn't work, then the friendship isn't working. And instead have a plan. So I say, don't be surprised by the hard things that are going to come in friendship, but have a plan and have the new expectation that, okay, every 6 months, like I should expect to change my friendship rhythms to meet the needs of the friendships because they're changing and I'm changing. And so I can't just give up or feel discouraged or feel like the friendship is failing because things are different now. And you weren't willing to adapt to the changes in your relationships and in yourself too. So I think that, there's definitely like this underlying thing, even though as you're listening to this, there could be so many things on the surface of just like friendship. Like my expectations are like friends should text me back when I text them. And it kind of goes down to, okay, if they're not, is there a reason? Are they in a season where that is not accessible to them? And maybe a few months ago, they had a lot more time. They were texting all the time. You guys were having constant communication, but something has changed. And instead of being like, she hates me, or I guess we're just not friends anymore, then just talk about it and say, hey, things are different. Is texting really hard for you right now? Is there a better way that I can connect with you that then kind of meets us in the middle? I feel like we're talking more regularly, but it's in a way that works with your schedule or with whatever's going on. So I think there's a lot of different, surface things that can then come back to say, I need to shift my expectation for when the friendship is getting more difficult.
I love that. One of the things I'm hearing you say is that what works today may not work for tomorrow.
Yes.
And to even expect that those shifts to happen. And I think sometimes we either A, need a friend, or B, we have a friend and then we think we're good.
Yes.
I think to always be thinking about and expecting change to happen. And I think as believers, especially like to hold friendships loosely, not to, sometimes I notice in my own life, I'm like, okay, finally, like this person has liked me. We have a good rhythm. I have to hold on tightly to that. And it's the way it's always going to be, but to know that no matter where we are in our stage of life, that we're going to need to make new friends.
Yes.
And I think that's hard, especially as women. I think we want to find our group and stick to our group, and that be that, but that's just not reality.
I'm not even sure. I'm assuming it's just television that has sold us that narrative of what friendship looks like. Yeah, because honestly, any television show, because you have the same group of friends for 7 seasons. So, and so I just don't see that in the Bible, and I just don't see there's no covenant to friendship or even one set of community. There's a covenant maybe to the church at large, but again, things change. And I think this is kind of, I don't even know if this is an expectation. This kind of gets into those like friendship breakups and friendship
Yeah.
hurts of truly, you were exactly right. You're summarizing it so well. Holding friends loosely, always being a student in the art of making new friends, because your friends are going to come and go. And I think you're right. Yeah. There is the expectation of like, I made the friend and now we're going to be friends for the next 20 years. And in Denver, we've really had to learn this lesson because our friends pick up and move like every 3 years. And
Oh.
so we're like constantly changing our community. And I think instead of just getting so hung up or stuck on the fact of like, oh man, I really like this person and we were supposed to be friends forever, and now it's just my life is over. Instead, we're like, okay, we're on the lookout for who could be the people who walk in our next couple of years of life. And I think for women who do see friendships dissolve naturally, or because your situations have changed, like you used to work together and now you don't, and you thought you'd be friends after that, and you just kind of, it just kind of dissipated. And there's a lot of shame in not having done more for the friendship, but with
Mm.
that loose expectation of like, you will not be friends with everybody for forever. And I think it really relieves some of that shame and stress and overthinking, analyzing that that's really normal and that's okay. There's a gal, Shauna, or no, I'm getting her name totally wrong right now. Um, what is her name? Can't believe it's escaping me. Um, but she did some research on friendship and she said that it's pretty normal for friendship circles to change every 7 years.
Yeah.
There might be one or two friends that like, have carried you through all your whole life, but really every 7 years, you're going to kind of recycle your friend group. And I think now having lived a little bit that I can see that cycle. And so not only do I like see the research, but I feel it to be true. And I think even knowing that, and again, it's like, okay, I'm aware now. I've been made aware. And so then I can kind of carry my friendships a little more loosely and not have such a death grip on them of like, oh, like you can't have any other friends but me. You can't do anything without me. Like we are ride or die. And that, again, I think culturally, that's like the narrative that's seeping into what friendship should look like.
And we feel such shame whenever it doesn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we feel such anger and hurt, and their friendships can be so hurtful and so confusing.
Mm-hmm.
I think in my own life about the handful of friends who I would consider forever friends.
Yeah.
But even those forever friends, seasons shift and change. And so they may not be as present
Yes.
during those seasons, but letting them go and just letting them know, hey, I'm here for you when you're ready
Mm-hmm.
to pop back in.
Yeah.
And I'm praying for you and supporting you. And even what does it look like for me to support you well in the season, even though it may
Mm-hmm.
be a season of silence and you doing your thing and me doing my thing.
Yeah. And I
That's
think
really
even
hard.
it's so hard, but I think keeping an open mind too. I love because there have been moments where friends have researched if there was like a year or even 2 years where it just was quiet or we didn't really see each other. But even having that open handedness instead of punishing them when they
Yeah.
want to reconnect, being like, okay, yeah, like let's reconnect and see what happens. And sometimes, at least in my life, I've seen friends come back in, or a long distance friend moves back to Denver. And it's like, okay, what does that look like? We were really close, but are we close now? Would we still connect the same? I have a gal that I was really close to in my hometown, and she's moving to Denver in a couple months. And I'm just like, oh, is this someone I pursue? Is this someone who could be a potential friend, or is it just more of an acquaintance and we have a history? But I'm always like, I'm open to it. Like, let's invite them over for dinner. Let's get together a couple of times. And if it's a friendship that was beautiful in the past, like who's to say it can't be something that's really great in the future?
Mm-hmm. It can feel a little bit awkward, but I even think having that communication to say, do you have bandwidth for another friendship?
Mm-hmm.
Or
Yeah.
what does friendship look like for you in this season? Setting those
Mm-hmm.
expectations and boundaries early, I feel like is so helpful. It's so
Absolutely.
risky and it feels so vulnerable to be like, I really need a friend. And friendship to me looks like X, Y, and Z. Where are
Yes.
you at? Like, do you have space for friendship? What does friendship look like for you? What are your thoughts on that,
Mhm.
Bailey, in terms of being honest like that and just being like super direct?
Yeah, 100%. Yes. I like to call it a little DTF. You got to determine the friendship. And it does sound very much like dating, but it's almost like clarify your intentions.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it a few times. So it's something you wouldn't do every time. I definitely think you'll feel
Right.
led in the moment for the right
Yeah.
moment. But I definitely have met some women and I've said, hey, I really like you. I would love to spend more time with you. Would you be interested in doing XYZ? Would you be interested in doing a monthly dinner with our families every month? And with one family, we did this for maybe 2 years. And then we both now have 3 kids. And so we get together like once every 3 months or something.
Yeah.
Things have changed and we don't love them any less. But yeah, things have definitely changed. But yeah, there's been a few times where I definitely have kind of asked people, and these are really good questions too. Melissa, you had really great ones, but asking them, what does friendship mean to you? What does friendship look like to you? I think another great question is, and this is maybe where you've been friends with someone for a while, but it hasn't really gone in depth, and just asking, where would you like to see this friendship in a couple of years? Like, where would you like to see this friendship grow? And it is so enlightening to hear where they're at. And for you then to also have an opportunity to share where you would love to see the friendship go. And having those things just being said, then you can both take ownership of what the friendship looks like moving forward versus that unspoken dance of, oh, I thought like she was going to come to my birthday party and she didn't. Like, that seems weird. I thought we were closer than that. Or, wow, I thought when I signed up for this camp, her and I would get coffee every day after we dropped our kids off, but she just like rushes off to do her own thing. So there's just all the little bits and pieces. But I think having communicated what you're really looking for and asking them what it looks like for them, there's just so much. I'm always like, there is so much beauty and clarity, because you're leaving no room for doubts and unhealthy thoughts to spiral down and infect your friendships.
Definitely. And I think it also like leads you to have a higher quality of friendship. Because if the friendship just isn't, I call them like, hey friends, where you're like, hey, and like, how's it going? And you're super fun and acquaintance. Like, I love a lot of hey friends, but in terms of like friendship where you're going to be vulnerable and truly like open your heart to them, receive from them, that I think that takes a lot of intentionality and even health on my part.
Yeah.
You write about the lies that we believe and feeling like something's wrong with us. Like, people don't like me. I'm weird. I'm different. I'm trying to think of the things that I've thought, and that's the bulk of it. People aren't really going to like me if they get to know me. I can't be my real self. What do you think, Bailey, in terms of like, how can we get ourselves in a healthier position to even be able to have those healthy friendships?
I mean, I personally think it's definitely setting your friendship with the Lord as your number one friendship. It should be your priority. Because he is truly the perfect friend. And so when you are looking and searching for value and love and worth in your friendships, then you're definitely not going to have any of those things. One of my favorite quotes right now is from Henry Nouwen. He wrote a book, or it was a book of a collection of his essays on community. And one of the things he said was, friendship is not loneliness grabbing onto loneliness. I'm so lonely. You're so lonely. Let's be friends. Like, that is not, that I feel like culturally, that's how friendship should start, or that's their belief of how friendship should start. But instead, when you are rooted in the love of the Lord and you know that you are loved by him, then you can approach friendship in the way of saying like, I'm loved by God and you are loved by God, and together we can build a home. And I feel like that is truly the sense of what we are looking for in friendship, is a place of belonging and safety and the freedom to be ourselves so we can take risks, outside of those friendships, knowing we have a safe place to land. And that only happens when you are secure in your love of the Lord. And then you're so secure that then you see how much the Lord loves them. And so when you have bad days, or you see their weaknesses, or they see yours, it's not something to be afraid of, but there is like safety there, because you're both coming back to a source that is inexhaustible, with compassion and grace and mercy and forgiveness and acceptance. So that personally is for me. I know no other way to truly be in a healthy friendship without those things. And so I think for those who have weird days with their friends, or they have insecurities rise up, or jealousy, or all sorts of different things. I just say, man, you have to get back to knowing who you are in the Lord and knowing how like loved and accepted you are in him so that you can go back out and, love other people in the security of him.
Mm-hmm. And you know what I love about that is that that's always accessible to us.
Yes.
When you move to a new city or you go to a new school, maybe you've gone through a breakup, whatever,
Yep.
friendship or romantic, whatever,
Right.
you may not feel ready to even form and build new friendships, but we
Yes.
always have accessibility to build that friendship with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that until we can have that strong friendship with ourselves and with God, I think our friendships are always just going to be really bumpy,
Yes.
unpredictable, frustrating, disappointing.
Yeah.
So, I work with a lot of clients who are single and they don't
Mm-hmm.
want to be single. They want to be married. And
Mm-hmm.
my heart so goes out to them because they're just like such amazing people.
Yeah.
We can't control always what we get,
Mm-hmm.
but I think we can control what we give.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say if you're listening, you're like, well, that sounds really great, but I don't know how to make friends. First, be a friend to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Learn how to spend time with yourself and enjoy your own company. Because I think if you can't enjoy your own company, I don't know how you're going to enjoy people who want to enjoy your company. Don't you think, Bailey?
Yes. Yeah. That's really good.
It sounds really simple, but I think that's something that we can always go back to. My daughter is starting middle school today,
Mm.
brand new school, and she's really scared, of course. And
Mm-hmm.
just even saying like, it's going to be okay if you're by yourself for lunch.
Yeah.
Enjoy your lunch. It's gonna be okay. Friendships are going to come,
Mm-hmm.
but building that relationship, I think, with yourself is so important. You mentioned habits. So what are some habits that we can do in addition to, being healthy people, building that relationship with God?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think once you are in the midst of friendship, finding ways to serve your friends, but then setting reminders of actually doing those things. And this will just depend on the friendship, asking them,
Yeah.
hey, what makes you feel most loved? What are your resources and limitations in your season? And so, for those of you who are super busy, maybe your friendship habits look like calling someone on your commutes on Tuesdays and Thursdays to work. Or maybe it's writing snail mail. I love snail mail, but I feel like I feel like it's dying. And
Everyone loves to get mail.
you do. It's so wonderful. But snail mail or remembering birthdays and sending an Amazon package, which we do like 100 times a day. So it's things that are not that difficult, but you have to get into the habit of doing them to kind of pick those things up. So I think even just picking one thing as you head into the fall to say, yeah, like I'm just going to remember to text a encouraging Bible verse to the women in my small group on Wednesday mornings, or I'm going to make one meal a month for a mom with a young kid that I know, and just do that one thing. I love the author John Acuff. He is just my absolute
Oh yeah.
favorite. And he talks a lot about goals. He wrote a book called Finish. And I appreciate he was like, when you set goals, it has to be things you like to do. Otherwise, you're not going to do them. And so it applies to friendship habits too. So I do not like cooking and I don't feel confident in it. So for me, anytime there is a new baby and you have the meal chain, we just either bring fast food or send a gift card because that to me is not life-giving. I should not make my goal to be to bring food to someone because that becomes stressful for me and I get bitter and irritated. And so instead it's like, okay, but what do I like to do? And how does that meet the needs of my friends? And for me, I love going on walks and I love getting up early in the morning. So for friends who have kids or they have to get to work, I'm like, awesome. I will meet you at 5:30 in the morning and we can go on a walk or I can bring you coffee. To me, that's super life-giving and it works with our family schedule. And so just finding things that work for you. And I think, again, be creative about it. It's okay. There's not one way, there's so many ways. And to find what is working in your schedule.
I love that so much. I love the idea of giving, but not having an expectation of return.
Yes.
I know for me, I'm just gonna be honest. And I know there's other people out there like me. I know I'm like not the only one. I'll be like, I'll tally it up. Well, I've done this, this, and this, and this, and this, and they
Mhm.
haven't done anything back.
Mhm.
So I would say when you're building those friendships, is just like to give freely without expectation of return.
Yes. Not only that, but in the book, I talk about how it's really hard to give freely in friendship because, I mean, you want it to always be equal, but our friendships will never be 50-50. So maybe that's again busting one of those expectations is
Yeah.
that sometimes it's going to be 20-80. Sometimes it's the opposite. Maybe you are 60-40, but it will always be fluctuating. But one thing that you will always get every single time you make the first move is that you will still get the connection that you are looking for. So
Mhm.
even if you were the person that texted the last 5 times to get together, but every time you got together, like you laughed, you felt great afterwards, it was life-giving, and you spent time together. So you
Mhm.
still are receiving the benefits of what you're looking for. And so I will admit this is something I still wrestle with because it is hard to always be the person who's initiating. And I'm definitely in my friendships an initiator. And so I think I've just had to come to terms with that as a role that I take in my friendships more aggressively. And to know that even though I might be the person that reaches out more, I have capacity for that. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and sometimes my kids are at school, and like I have the ability to send emails and send texts and make calls and write letters and do fun, drop off fun little gifts in the middle of the day. And for me, it works with me. It's something I love to do. I don't always expect my friends who are in a different place in life to be able to return those things the exact way. But the things that they do return for me are so valuable to me. And so I think remembering, like, okay, it's hard if I'm doing the one without anything in return, but remembering you are getting something in return. And that's the continued growth of your friendship and those connection points that are really what build up the kind of friendships you're looking for.
Yeah, that really resonates. I'm an initiator as well. I'm
Mhm.
super relational. And I think pretty action oriented. So I am generally
Mm.
the one who is like, okay, it's been X amount of time since we've seen each other, talked to each other.
Mhm.
It's time to check in. Whereas a
Yes.
lot of people just don't think that way. It may be like
Mhm.
a month or even a year later that they are like, oh my gosh, like we haven't even touched base yet. Like what's happening?
Mhm.
So for
Yeah.
me, one thing I look at are these people, even though I may be the one that initiates it, are they matching me and their presence?
Yes. Oh, that's great.
When we're there, are they pouring into me in their way? Or is there
Mm.
a reciprocation? Even though I may be number one, are they coming back in quickly with that number two? The
Yes.
other thing I look at personally is like, what have they done for me in the past? Like maybe they aren't doing
Mm.
something for me right now, but what are the ways? Like I said, I have one friendship that's like 30 years old. Like that's really dating me, but how old? That's how long this friend. So I have a lot of things to go back to, a lot of ways that she's like
Yes.
totally showed up for me. And maybe she isn't showing up for me the way I want to in this season,
Mm.
but how has she in the past? I
Yeah.
think it's so easy to be disappointed in the present
Yes.
and to get our feelings hurt and then to build cases against people.
Mhm.
And you can, I know you can really speak to this with friendship breakups and people like ghosting each other. And
Mhm.
I mean, I don't have capacity for this friendship anymore, just like letting things go. Can you talk about when maybe the things that you see as reasons why friendships break up and how to handle those breakups?
Yeah. I think a lot of times there are like minor
Infractions.
situation. Yeah, that's a great way to put it. Minor infractions. I was like, what is the word? That really just like explode. That's I feel like typically how it happens. I wish I could blame it on like being women or something, being just over analyzers. But one thing is when there is a minor infraction is to talk about it immediately. I have a friend who is so good at this. Sometimes I'm just like, man, I don't know how she does this because I feel like I'm pretty conflict averse. So
What's your
she's
Enneagram number?
I'm a 3.
You're a 3. Okay.
Yes. And I think what's funny is I feel like I don't love conflict because it takes too long to work out. As threes, we're like, let's just move on. Um, and so she's so great. I mean, immediately, even if she said things that aren't offensive, she's like, I need to address this. I felt like I said this thing, yesterday, and did you take it wrong? I wasn't sure. And if you did,
Mm.
I want to apologize. And she's just been such a great role model, I think, in not allowing time to go past if you feel even just an inkling that something wasn't right or they took something the wrong way. because that's where I feel like a lot of us don't address things. And then they're building up so many things in their head. You're building up things in your head. By the time you finally get to talk about it, it's just become like 10 times a bigger issue than it actually was. So I don't know. I would say that's probably the most common way I see conflict arise. And it's funny because sometimes you can say, oh, if you just talked it through. I think a lot of times in coaching, it's almost saying like, have you told them what you just told me? And they'll be like, no. And I was like, wow, if you just even said the exact things you told me, I think it would make all the difference. I think if you're walking through a breakup and if you haven't talked about it yet, a great way to start is to write a letter, and just that you think they would read or wouldn't read, but just getting out all your emotion and then maybe tailoring it down and sharing that with your friend. Because a lot of times, even just saying like, this really hurt my feelings, or this makes me feel this way, like your friend has no idea that maybe that one little thing she did actually caused you to feel that way. So I think those are really great. But when someone is unwilling to talk or to hear you out or to want to reconcile, then at that point, it really is unfortunately something you have to just work out between you and God. And that's so hard because it's so painful. And if you're a normal person like myself, you will like repeat the situation over and over, wishing it would have gone differently, wishing you would have said something differently, wishing, I don't know, all the things that it wouldn't have been that way. And so I think really taking those negative thoughts and I feel like there's new, like baggage you take with you in friendship. And I always say, find a safe friend to talk it out with, someone who's maybe not in that friendship circle, someone who could be in a completely different state, but someone you can just share with and have them kind of be praying for you and checking in on you, because it's really, really, really hard to lose a friendship, and especially to lose a friendship when it's been like a conflict situation. So those are just some like, I don't know, quick tips, but
it can feel very confusing. I know that's happened to me where the friend just kind of like dropped out, like they just like tapped out, and there was no, and I even said like, have I done something to offend you? Like, is there something going on? And oh no, nothing. I'm like, well, clearly I did something, because it's very different now. And, eventually it just like, tapered off, and that was that. But like, I had no closure. Yeah. But I feel like when that happens, it can be so confusing and hurtful. And it can definitely, like, I was so guarded in friendships for a while longer, because you can feel like I invested and opened my heart up to you. And then without even knowing what I did wrong or what happened, like it's over. And so it can make it so challenging to be vulnerable and risk again.
Absolutely. You're just like, how do I know this person isn't going to respond the same way that person did? And this is why I often just like fight for bravery of like, okay, if this has happened to you, then don't do it to somebody else. And I think finding a way to really push for like having closure, even if you are the person that's saying, I don't see this friendship working out anymore. It honestly, that simple statement, though still painful, is so much better than just being like, just never talking to someone again. That leaves so many, exactly what you said, Melissa, has happened. I've felt the exact same way of just, I'm confused. I feel hurt. I just don't know what happened. So now I just have doubts. Like, I must be a terrible person. Am I a bad friend? Do all my friends secretly hate me? Will this happen again and again and again? I just do not understand. And I just feel like having the conversation, just saying, hey, I just really don't click with your personality. I don't see this friendship moving forward. And like, I wish you the best. Like, that's really hard. That's a hard conversation to have. It's a hard conversation to hear, but it is still it's something you can heal from versus just never knowing. And so I'm always like, be brave, people, be brave to be the person who says it in a kind way, and be brave to be the person who receives it in a humble way. I'm like, again, friendship breakup is just a very, very painful experience. So
it is, it really is. I have a random question for you, and there may not be an answer, but as you're sharing that, I was like, so if you do that and you end the friendship, Do you unfollow them on social media? Do you unfriend them? Like, do you have recommendations on that? Like,
Ooh.
you recommend a break to be a break and
Mm.
you completely, and I'm sure it's situationally dependent,
Mhm.
but I know for me personally, I have found that it's been helpful to unfriend people, unfollow
Mm.
them,
Yeah.
not out of, I'm not like blocking people.
Right.
But what are your thoughts on that? Because social media is such a part of
Mhm.
our world.
I say it all depends on your, like, if it's going to help your mental health or hurt your mental health. I would say you probably would unfriend them. And if you can't be okay with them moving forward without you.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when women come to me and they're thinking about ending a friendship, or is this friendship over and should I move on? I always say, will you be okay if they move, if they move on without you? They continue in the friend group without you. Like, are you going to be okay knowing that and seeing that? Then okay, like that's definitely a different healthy place to be. If you're like, yeah, I think I'm okay. And if not, it's like, okay, then yeah, you might need to create some boundaries for yourself to heal without seeing and knowing all the time. I was in a friendship where a friend really did hurt me. We had it was a true friendship breakup drama.
Yeah.
And she came back around and we had I call it our reconciliation conversation. But at the end, I did ask her, I said, hey, like, where are we standing right now? Where does this friendship stand? And she said, oh, we have so much history. I actually would love to see this friendship continue, but I'll definitely be treating it differently because the friendship is just different. And I was like, well, that doesn't really sound like a friendship. And, you know, if we don't have trust in that relationship. And I was like, I just think it's been too long and too much hurt. And so I don't see this friendship going anywhere. And we just said bye. Like that was truly the last thing. It was just like,
Oh,
okay, well, bye.
wow.
And she did unfriend me or block. I don't know. I never unfriended her. I was actually really okay with everything. I felt like it was truly time for me to end the friendship. And I think maybe for her, it was a little bit harder for her to see me move on and be okay with that. And years went by and we have like reconnected. We like see each other regularly. We share our lives in conversation, though there's definitely some boundaries of we don't see each other every day or text each other every single thought or I don't know, share every intimacy, maybe like we did before. But I would say that she probably has not, my guess is she has not like re-upped her social media with me. It's like I like the friendship living in this safe place, but I don't like want to see what else is going on out there in her life. And I actually feel no hurt by that. I think it's very interesting to have kind of come back around to the friendship with some boundaries that we both I think feel really good about. And so I don't know. I think it just is going to depend on the person, but yeah, if it's harmful for you, definitely do it. And actually tell them. So again, it all goes back to be like, hey, like, I'm so glad we had this conversation. I understand where you're coming from now. I think for me, like, I don't see us moving forward. And I think even another step further for me to just like have some time to heal and be away. I think I will like, I will disengage from social media. And I hope to see you at, so-and-so's birthday party, church, work thing, school function, like I will, I'll look forward to, catching up with you then. And, I think that's okay. But as silly as it sounds, there's always more drama in just like, I'm going to block them and then finding out later, or I'm going to unfriend them. And then, so just tell them you're going to, and then they know why you did it instead of being like, do they actually still hate me? Why'd they do that? I'm going to tell all my girlfriends. I can't believe they did that. Just being like, wow, I know why she did it. And that's okay.
I love the honesty with that. That's so hard for most of us to do, myself included. I too am very conflict avoidant. I want to
Yes.
give people the benefit of the doubt and just like let that go. But
Yeah.
even with that, there's still a lot of hurt and confusion, and
Mhm.
probably the hurt and confusion that I've caused other people by not being clear. And
Right.
so I just want to encourage everyone listening to I think the best place, honestly, to start this conversation is with your journal,
Yes.
writing it down,
Yes.
praying about it, talking like Bailey saying with a friend, and not just somebody who's going to be like that takes your side, but
Mhm.
somebody who's going to be like neutral and being willing to say
Yes.
like, hey, actually I can see where this other person is coming from, and be willing to
Mhm.
challenge you, because that's really what we need, is a fresh perspective. And I
Yeah.
also feel like the older I get, the more grace I have to give.
Mm,
because I understand like the more stuff that I've been through, the
right.
more
Yeah.
stuff I can see that other people are going through. But
Yeah.
that is really hard to say like, hey, this friendship's not healthy for either of us.
Mhm.
And I don't like the direction that it's heading. And so, wow, that takes a lot of practice.
It really does. And as silly as it sounds, I've been getting into those parenting books, and a role playing is often suggested. And honestly, you can role play this too. Role play it with someone, role play it with that safe friend of like, this is how I think I'm going to do the conversation, because it'll go so much better if you've had an opportunity to already voice it out loud, even to someone else. So you're like, okay, that sounds not the point of the conflict, or I feel like I'm getting off track, or maybe I am too emotional. So I need to just like sit with it a little bit more. So I feel like role playing is a good thing. And always keep in mind the golden rule, treat others the way you want to be treated. Put
Mm-hmm.
yourself in their shoes. How would you want to receive this conversation? And then be able to then, give it in that way.
This has all been so good. Do you feel like there's anything, Bailey, that we haven't hit that we need to share with somebody today?
Maybe just I feel like we've been really like, reflecting on the heavy. And so maybe something a little more lighthearted of
Yeah.
just having fun with your friends. Fall is coming. And so I think when I love to say like, friendship definitely lives in the small little habits that happen weekly, but plan one fun thing,
Love it.
because we love those mountaintop moments and we see them on social media. And sometimes you're like, oh, that never happens with my friends. Because it's like it's pretty rare. It happens very rarely, but fall is a great time to plan that one fun thing. So having a pumpkin painting party and having snacks and just enjoying all the fall things. Or my neighbors, we like to go the first day Starbucks has pumpkin spice lattes. We like all get together and we just meet at the Starbucks and have like just more longer girl time that day. I don't know, plan to do a 5K run, but all dress up in crazy outfits, do a big fall dinner. Like there's just so many things. So I'd say right now, be thinking of something fun you can do with your friends. Is a little more effort and planning, and hopefully, can just be something really special. Cause I feel like I love sprinkling in some of those special traditions of this is so fun. Let's invite a lot of people and do it really big. My husband, his is a fantasy football league, and I think his party is in a couple weeks, but they like get a giant board. This is just for ladies if you are married or you're
For
dating
the
or something.
draft.
Yes. And they each get like name stickers. And so they like have this giant board and they have someone host it, and they do like barbecue wings, and there's like 20 men in the backyard and they all have their computers and they're like drafting their teams. And for the boys, because I'm like, I can't forget them too. They really need an extra push. They have like a little trophy that they have, and
That's
all
so
sorts of
funny.
like different traditions to make that like little tiny thing like seem really big and fun. And so I helped him with the decorations this year, because I was like, well, do you guys want to like get themed, like, table covers? Like it'll look like a football field. And he's like, oh yeah, that sounds really cool. So there's all sorts of things in the fall. You got
I love
sports,
that.
got pumpkins,
Yeah,
you
there's
got
so much to
all
do.
sorts of fun things.
In your book, you have some fun examples. And that's one of the things I love about like books like yours. It's not just you read it and you're like, okay, that was great content, but you read it and then there's something to do and practice
Mhm.
with it. So I
Yes.
love the fact that you bring in the fun, because friendship is so much fun. I
Mhm.
just got back from visiting a friend, and our daughters got to get together and meet, and we got to play
Aw.
and laugh. And, we laughed so hard, we cried. And those, they really fill up your bucket. So we
Yes.
are focusing on the hard and the heavy, but there's also so much joy, and it's
Mhm.
so worth it. I see
Yes.
my friendships truly as treasures.
Yes.
They're such gifts in my life, and therefore I
Mhm.
want to honor them and treat them well. And sometimes it takes a while to figure out how to honor things well and how to honor people and to treat them well. But you're right, to bring that fun, because let's face it, we need more fun in our life.
Yes.
It's a lot of mundane and monotony.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. So yeah, there's fun to be had. And I personally feel like I come alive in fall. So I cannot wait.
Mhm. Well, it's 1,000 degrees here in Texas.
Oh,
So we are very, very, very ready for fall, even
oh,
though it's
that's
like
really
pretty
funny.
far out in terms of like the weather shifting.
Yeah.
But we too are very into fall here with the idea and dream of it being cooler. Well, Bailey, where
Yes.
can we find you and where can we get the book?
Yes. So you can grab Together is a Beautiful Place anywhere books are sold, which is great, but Amazon, right? Amazon
Totally
is
easy.
easy. And if you are looking for friendship resources, you can find them at baileythurley.com. And then if you're looking for just the daily conversation, you can find me on Instagram at bailey.t.hurley.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.